a beautiful city in the United States, two 9-year-old black twin girls named Emily and Grace stood outside a jewelry store. Their little fingers were holding a tiny pouch full of coins and small dollar bills. They had been collecting money for weeks. Sometimes they picked up dropped coins on sidewalks. Sometimes they saved their lunch money. Sometimes they kept spare change their mother gave them for small snacks. And tonight they wanted to buy something precious. Tomorrow was their mother's birthday. They wanted to surprise her. Not with drawings or school cards like every year, but with a real bracelet. Something shiny. Something she could always wear. Something that would remind her that her daughters loved her more than anything in this world. So Emily and Grace pushed the door of the jewelry store open. Inside, the air smelled expensive. Christmas songs were playing softly. Customers were trying rings, bracelets, necklaces. The glass counters sparkled with stones and diamonds. Emily slowly walked toward one of the display cases. There was a beautiful silver bracelet with tiny white stones. Her eyes widened. She whispered to Grace, "This is the one." Grace nodded nervously. Emily looked up at the jewelry salesperson behind the counter and said politely, "Can we please see this bracelet?" The store manager's name was Stephen. He was tall, pale skin, sharp, narrow eyes that didn't soften when he looked at them. He didn't smile. He didn't greet them. He just stared at them. He slowly leaned forward, crossing his arms. "Are you two here alone?" Emily took a breath and answered honestly, "Our mother is parking the car." "She is coming inside," but Stephen cut her off sharply. "Don't lie to me." Grace felt her little body freeze. Emily tried to hold her sister's hand tightly so she wouldn't feel scared. Stephen stepped closer. His voice got lower, darker. "I know kids like you. You walk in pretending to buy something, but you really want to steal." Grace looked shocked. Her face lost color. Emily felt like her chest locked up. Her eyes became hot. She whispered, "Sir, we saved our money. We want to buy this for our mother's birthday." Stephen scoffed, laughed sarcastically. "You saved money? Show me then." Emily unzipped her small pouch proudly. Coins, $1 bills, $2 bills, all collected with love and patience. She held it out toward Stephen. Stephen laughed out loud. Customers turned their heads, staring. One woman raised her eyebrows. A man frowned. Stephen said loudly, "You expect to buy something here with that cheap money? This is not a dollar store." Emily's lips trembled. Grace stepped back, her little hands shaking. Emily whispered again, "We worked hard for this money." Stephen suddenly slammed his palm on the glass counter. "Get out, leave now!" People started murmuring. One man said softly to his wife, "Why is he yelling at them?" Another woman whispered, "They're just kids." But Stephen didn't stop. He grabbed the store phone and dialed 911. He said loudly, "Yes, we have 2 suspicious minors in the store. I believe they are here to steal." Emily gasped loudly. Grace's tears rolled down her cheeks. Emily said, "Please don't call the police. We didn't do anything wrong, please." Stephen smirked. Criminals always say that. The store security guard stepped forward. He tried to sound neutral. "Girls, where exactly is your mother?" Emily wiped her tears. "She is coming inside. She just parked the car." But Stephen pointed at Emily and shouted, "They are lying. They have no parent here. I'm warning you right now. They planned this. They wanted to distract and grab something." Some customers took out their phones and started recording the scene. Grace cried harder. Emily held her sister close. Then suddenly the store entrance door opened. A woman in a long beige coat walked inside. She carried elegance in her steps, power in her calm eyes. Her voice was steady. "Emily, Grace." "What's wrong?" Both girls rushed toward her. They hugged her tightly. Grace whispered, "They think we came to steal." "They called the police," Emily added. "We just wanted to buy you a bracelet for your birthday." Their mother looked straight at Stephen. She didn't shout. She didn't raise her voice. She just asked quietly, "What exactly did you accuse my daughters of?" Stephen crossed his arms and answered with arrogance, "Police will decide. These kids are suspicious. They came here with a plan." Their mother slowly reached into her handbag. She took out a wallet. She opened it. She placed her official government ID on the glass counter. The security guard's eyes widened. The woman recording in the background gasped softly. On the government ID under her name, the title was printed in bold official type, "Mayor of Seattle." The entire store froze in shock at that one single line. Fade out. Laura sat in her car that night, in the dark parking lot behind the quiet hospital building. feeling like she wasn't even inside her own life anymore. Her hands were shaking. Her throat was dry. She looked at herself in the rearview mirror, and she realized her eyes had changed. They didn't look scared anymore. They looked angry. She finally said something to herself out loud, for the first time since this nightmare started. "I'm done being the victim." She took her phone out, and she opened her email drafts. She started typing one more letter of the truth, and she didn't care anymore who believed her, because now she wasn't trying to convince anybody. She was building a trap. The next morning, she requested a meeting with the chief, and she also requested the internal affairs officer to be present as a witness to the conversation. They both assumed she was coming to apologize. They had no idea she was walking in with a strategy. She entered the chief's office with a soft, calm face. She looked broken on purpose. She acted tired. She let her shoulders drop. And she said one line that changed the whole game. "I think you should give Michael another chance." The chief and the internal affairs officer both looked at each other. They relaxed. They thought Laura finally broke. Just then, Laura casually placed her phone face down on the desk. The phone was secretly recording audio for evidence. The chief didn't even notice. He leaned back in his leather chair and smiled. "You finally understand your limits, Laura." He looked at the internal affairs officer with a smirk. "See, I told you. She's easy to control." Laura kept her face down. She didn't blink. She didn't react. She just let them talk. The chief continued. "You really think we were ever going to let you mark him guilty? He's useful to us. You're not. He follows orders. You don't." Internal Affairs tried to interrupt, but the chief raised his hand. "No, let her hear this. She needs to hear how the real world works." He leaned toward her. "You were never hired for justice. You were hired because you look good on the website. You're PR. You're an image. You're a tool. That is all." Laura whispered quietly, "I understand." The chief smiled. "Good. Now go help Michael clean up the paperwork. And don't ask what happened that night again." Laura stood up and picked up her phone. Still recording, she left without showing even one reaction. But when she walked out of the office, her steps changed. She wasn't walking like a wounded officer anymore. She was walking like someone who had a weapon they didn't know about. That night in her apartment, Laura connected that audio file with all her notes, all the reports, all the timestamps, all the contradictions in Michael's statements, and one huge thing that she never told anyone. She had the real footage from the traffic camera that night. She downloaded it the same night the victim died. She never revealed it. She stored it on a private drive. At 2:14 a.m., Laura pressed send. She didn't send it to the news. She didn't send it to the police. She sent it to someone much more dangerous for corrupt people, a United States federal prosecutor. The next morning, before sunrise, the chief, Michael, and internal affairs officer were all called urgently to the department conference room. Laura walked in slowly, and the federal prosecutor was already there. The chief looked confused. "What's happening?" The federal prosecutor turned the laptop screen toward them and pressed play. It was the camera footage. Michael's face went pale. The chief's fingers froze. The room went dead silent. Then the federal prosecutor turned toward Laura. "Officer Laura, thank you for trusting us. From this moment, I'm in charge." Laura finally breathed. Not because she was saved, but because she was finally in the fight, on the right battlefield. And when she walked out of that building, she wasn't afraid anymore. She was ready for the war that was coming.